Is there one in place now?
They're forming a task force right now in the Sheriff's Department, and I plan on taking that task force to the next level, incorporating prosecutors in that task force so that we can stop graffiti in the city of LA. And the thing is, you got to do that one case at a time. You got to focus on a place where graffiti is taking place. You got to set up on that location. You got to either catch them in the act or run search warrants on the location of their homes after you've caught them in the act to determine who's in it with them. And then you go after those people hard. And the bottom line is that if you take out the small crime at the bottom, you begin to prevent the big crime from happening. If the people who are doing the little crime never get the opportunity to commit the big crime, we're going to be safer. And the more we do it, like Pavlovian's dog, you ring the bell, you put out the food, you ring the bell, you put out the food. If you catch them, you put them in jail, you catch them, you put them in jail. Eventually they're going to learn that there's no easy way out of graffiti except through the jail, the bars of a cell.
Carmen, in your experience, are there different sections in the city that are more susceptible to this graffiti than others?
I don't think anyone in the city is safe. I mean, there is graffiti. I drive up the Harbor Freeway every single day. And I come through some of the nicest areas of town, and I come through some of the worst areas of town. And the bottom line is that it is rampant. This morning I drove to Ventura. On my way to Ventura, I drove up the 405 freeway. There was a mile stretch of a wall along the along the 405 freeway, in probably Culver City area, that was just covered with graffiti.
It's probably a new wall, too.
Exactly. Yeah. And the minute you wipe it out, they're back doing it again. At the end of the day, that's going to stop. Because either they're going to be in jail or they're going to leave town.
Well said, Carmen. Let's talk a little bit about your length in this race. You know, when you started, I guess you've made it official that you are a candidate for the office of city attorney. Tell us a little bit about that.
I filed my papers in November of 2007. Okay. It was a tough decision to make, to run for city attorney. I looked at the office. I knew that it needed help. I've been a lawyer for 30 years. I've tried hundreds of cases. I'm a real lawyer. I mean, that's what I do. I go to court, and I handle clients. I've seen the law from both sides. I've seen it as a defense lawyer, and I've seen it as a prosecutor. I know the issues on both sides. I know what it's like to represent someone who's been accused of a crime. I know what it's like to accuse someone of a crime because I've done it. And there are issues on both sides of that. It's very easy to sit on the sidelines and talk about being a criminal defense lawyer, but it's a difficult job. And the Constitution of the United States provides for a defense for everyone. That's our system. And what comes out of a trial, what comes out of a defense, is justice by our system, which is the best system in the world. And so, given my background, which I think I'm uniquely qualified because I'm the only candidate in this race that's done that. That's basically done both sides of the fence. I've seen both sides of this issue. I've also run a law office. For 20 years, I've run a law office. And I've made a payroll every 2 weeks for the last 20 years. And there's a responsibility associated with that. I've had to meet a budget. Every 2 weeks, you've got to pay your rent, you've got to pay your employees, you've got to pay the light bill. I know what it's like to run within a budget.
And you believe, Carmen, that this practical experience will really make you a more effective city attorney?
I think the job is city attorney. It's not city politician, it's not city spokesman, it's the city's lawyer. I've handled every type of case that you can think of. When you walk into a lawyer's office, do you ask him what party he belongs to, or do you ask him? Any questions about his affiliations? No, you ask him. Have you ever done a case like this before? How many? And the answer is yes, and a lot.
And you'll have the requisite experience and background.
The people in that office are going to know that their leader is qualified to lead them, and I think that if you ask the people in that office, they'd give you that answer. By and large.
Carmen, the city of Los Angeles does have claims that are brought against it. There are people bringing actions against the city for various reasons, whether they're of a civil or other nature. What would be your plan for improving Los Angeles's defense on civil cases that may be brought? And I'm sure you've heard of the controversies and of things related to that the city council would vote in and make all these large payments and claims for things that the public has thought of as maybe being insignificant or silly, and yet they're receiving large amounts of rewards on these things.
I can tell you this, that once I become city attorney, it's not going to be a resting spot for lawyers who sue the city to become millionaires. That's first and foremost. There's a couple things that need to be done, though, to enhance the city attorney's office in terms of making it a better place to work. One, there needs to be a Bureau of Investigation. The district attorney's office has district attorney investigators to help the district attorneys handle those cases and find witnesses. The Los Angeles Police Department is a very, very, very fine institution, and they are very taxed. They are shorthanded on the street. To ask a LAPD officer to come down and investigate a civil matter is taking a cop off the street, and it's dangerous to do that. What the city attorney's office needs is a Bureau of Investigation to help investigate civil matters and criminal matters, to help the deputies be better equipped in the courtroom. And that means in a civil case, when something happens, you roll out an investigator right there who's trained in litigation on the issues that are presented in the particular matter that is being called for. For example, everyone in the city, I'm sure, is familiar with the fireman case with the dog food.
Yes.
And I'm sure that's the case that you were thinking about.
I was referring to that case,
I can almost read your mind.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you this, that under my administration, we are going to adopt a new type of defense. And that defense is going to be the porcupine defense. Okay. And that porcupine defense is basically this. You may eat me, but I sure am not going to taste good going down.
Okay.
The bottom line is that we are not going to be the resting spot to make millionaires. My experience has been this. If you fight hard, people are going to look for other places to take their battles to because they know it's going to be costly. Someone's going to get hurt. Someone's going to bleed. Someone is going to pay money in order to have to litigate against the city of Los Angeles. That is basically the bleeding that takes place in civil cases. We bled to the tune of almost $5 million in that case. And it's amazing that we gave up $5 million.
Yeah.
1.4 to the law firm. Another $1 million and so to the plaintiff, and then subsequent to that, there were a couple more plaintiffs that sued on that very same case. Those cases need to be tried. Those cases need to have competent city attorneys sitting there in the courtroom trying those cases. One way you do it is by giving them the help of a Bureau of Investigation, and the second way you do it is by instituting an Institute of Justice. And that Institute of Justice basically is a continuing legal education for the lawyers in the office, to keep them abreast of the changes in the law, to make them fighter pilots, if you will, on the edge of what occurs in the legal classrooms, so that they can take that stuff to the courtroom. In addition to that, we have to automate that office. We've got to make computers available to everyone in that office. Laptops, so that they can take their work and work at it home. I can tell you right now that when I go home at night, I have a laptop at my desk from my office, and I work at home just as effectively as I do in my office. When I was in the district attorney's office, I can't tell you the number of hours, because and every lawyer will bear me out that's listening to this right now. When you are in trial, it's a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week experience. When you are in trial, you work all the time. And the bottom line is, it doesn't matter if you're at home, it doesn't matter if you're in the office, you're working because you want to win that trial. And basically, when you have those kind of people, you need to reward them, and you got to give them the tools to be successful. As city attorney, I am going to do that for the people in that office.